students. I'm Ms. Hernandez, and today we're just going to be going over this lesson of Poem to Inner Child. Um, so this purpose of this video disclaimer is for students who have not learned this lesson yet or have a difficult time of understanding it. And this was a peer review assignment and really hands-on activity. And we were just laying the groundwork for our final, so don't worry, you still have time. And yeah, so we're just going to be discussing with our groups and receiving feedback from our peers and, creating a a stanza poem to our inner child. And as a literature course, this creative writing is not only important to understand, but to help create. So first, I would like to begin with the overall lesson plan. Yeah, we're going to be going over a slideshow, booklet, and creating our draft, and then rubric of the end. I will provide you my example. We're going to be going over our objective and overall the different types of assessments. And yeah. So by the end of the lesson, students will write an explanatory poem that examines and conveys complex ideas, concepts, and information clearly and accurately through the effective selection, organization, and interpretation of content. They will use precise language, domain-specific vocabulary, and literary techniques such as metaphor, simile, and analogy to manage the complexity of the topic. We're going to also make a multimedia presentation of our poem using visual art, music, performance, or short film. We will also do that our next block period, work on our drafts, and then once we do that, we will also do our peer review sessions after we created the baseline of our stanzas and then receive feedback. So our assessments for this class, we will begin with our opening question, and then in class we did the booklet as a review session to not review the different forms of figurative language that we learned last time. And then at the end of the class, we did a list of 4 things that stood out to them by their peers as assessment, as well as a reflection of, what did you learn and what did you find most impactful to you? So I'm like, okay, like we gotta start thinking about our childhood. What was our favorite birthday growing up? And then we just went in groups, discussed our favorite birthday and why it was our birthday. My favorite was my 15th. It was my quinceañera. I was, um, you know, if you weren't familiar with quinceañeras, you're just the pretty much the star of the show. I mean, it's your birthday, but it was such a beautiful birthday, and I loved it so much because it was just I had spent so much time dancing and enjoying time with my family. So today's lesson, students learn how to use precise language and literary techniques to write an explanatory poem about their inner child. So relevance. Why does this matter? Last week we learned a little bit about stanzas, and it is relevant because we are going to learn we are going to start our stanzas today. Okay. So key terms. Last lesson we learned about figurative language, and we're high school 11th graders. We know a thing or two about figurative language, but here are some definitions. So we have idiom. An idiom is an expression that cannot be understood from the meanings of separate words, but that has separate meaning of its own. Simile, a phrase that uses the words like or as to describe someone or something by comparing someone or someone else, and that is similar. This metaphor, a metaphor substitutes a word or phrase with one that makes an analogy or explanation with an image. Hyperbole, figurative use of language, also takes the form of extreme exaggeration. I mean, that one's kind of well known. And then the focus of today's take action is symbolism. Symbolism is a literary device that refers to the use of symbols in a literary work. A symbol is something that stands for or suggests something else. So, at this time oh, sorry, we did our look at. So simile she was like a fast cheetah, idiom, they are two peas in a pod, hyperbole. My dad isn't strong enough to lift a car, symbolism. Um, you know, stormy weather, meaning bad mood. Um, the color green, meaning stands for envious, um, things of that nature. So today's focus, what is symbolism? So before we got into this lesson, this section of the lesson, I asked students what was their initial understanding of symbolism. Would you say like the scar on Harry Potter's forehead symbolized his death of his family, of his parents, and some other student mentioned Black Swan and mentioned like the scars on her shoulders or even her like ballet, the feathers that were popping out were like symbolism of like, you know, her mental, like her anxiety and her dread. And symbolism is a literary device that refers to the use of symbols in a literary work. A symbol is something that stands for, suggests something else. In literature, a symbol can be a word, object, action, character, or concept that embodies and invokes a range of additional meaning and significance. Yeah, so I would just like to point out like your inner child is the kid inside of you that like hasn't really let go of, or you didn't really have an understanding of growing up, and just pretty much the little kid that lives inside of you goes along with you every day. The part of your brain that gets excited when you see your favorite color, the part of memory that you flash back to whenever you smell your favorite home cooked meal, things of that nature. That's your inner child. So now we thought within our class and um and discuss the four items that you think represent. And I chose four because um stanzas can get pretty long and lengthy, and I didn't want to overwhelm because you already had to, do a presentation of this as a visual aid. So we had to write four things down that represented your childhood, and you were going to share with your partners in your class just over the course of the couple minutes what they were. So my example is my mother's perfume, my softball cleats, blue raspberry slushy, and dog clothes. And we had students think and pair and share within the groups. And um, the items of other students, they put like drinks, a uniform that they used to wear, a hobby that they did, and even an item that they like to listen to or watch. So like if I had to replace like my mom's perfume, like something that I really loved, I would have put like a Dora the Explorer VHS tape, something something that I really clinged on to as a kid. So, stanza poems. A stanza is a group of lines form a smaller unit within a poem. A single stanza usually is set apart from other lines or stanza within a poem by a double line break or a change of indentation. Stanzas can have any meter or rhyme scheme or none at all. However, that way that stanzas work are different in formal verse that has a meter and rhyme scheme, and free verse that does not. So here's an example in this two stanza poem by Emily Dickinson. The first stanza alternates with lines of iambic terameter, 8 syllables, and with lines of iambic trimeter, 6 syllables. And this rhyme scheme is A, B, C, B. Since it's a formal verse, the second stanza should be expected to repeat the same pattern and the same meter and rhyme scheme, but using different verbs, which it does. So this is an example of a poem. It says, "You left me, sire, two legacies. A legacy of love, a heavenly father would suffice. He had the offer of. You left me boundaries of pain, capacious as the sea, between eternity and time, your consciousness and me." So we can focus on the syllables and creating the rhyme scheme. So it's A, the purple A is legacies and pain. B and B and B and B is love of C and me, right? And then C is suffice and time. So they don't all have to match, but when you do repeat different rhyme schemes, it is important that they have some pattern. Here's a student's example, or my teacher example is, "I hated going to softball practice and how I never got the red dirt stains out of my pants. The smell of wet grass on a Saturday morning. Practice was the best. The taste of blue raspberry slushy and how I often would leave it for the ants. How whenever I would not get my own slushy, my cousin would give me the rest. I remember the chewiness of clothes and how I would beg for anything Polly Pocket. How I would climb up and play with my Barbies in a tree. I still have my most prized possession I received as a kid, which was a locket. I wish I was still a kid, and how much I miss my mother comforted me." So that's just an example of what a stanza poem is, with the rhyme scheme, with the formal verse and repeated pattern. Having constantly going within the groups and facilitating different um, poems and a concept of inner child and literary techniques. And then once we did that draft, we then moved on to peer review. And once we started that, we were asking everybody who's peer reviewing to identify the positive, something that was very, very strong, and something that needed improvement. And those three items were given to them by their peers. And after reviewing and providing feedback, one person of the group would then give me the stanzas. So after we did that, we also pretty much just did a think, reflect. Sorry, our exit ticket, we did 4 items that we learned, and pretty much what we of our groups and what we had thought were very impactful. So this homework assignment would be posted on Canvas. Yeah, it was the exit ticket, and we revised and provided feedback by next week by me. So since you were those who were absent couldn't do the peer review feedback, I would just provide you that. So that's not a problem at all. And then at the end, we did a journal reflection. So we did write down something new that we have learned so far. And if you did learn nothing new, what was your favorite aspect? And even then, if you didn't have a favorite, we had the ultimate question. What inspired the decisions you made for your multimedia presentation? Did you guarantee these sections were consistent with the concept and tone of your poem? So that just pretty much gave you an understanding. That would be a part of your journal entry. So if you were not present and you have to complete the exit ticket, you could just write under and put journal entry, date you were there, and answering the question. Yeah, so then thank you. And to apply this to our key points today, we investigated advanced poetic strategies, provided constructive peer comments, built multimedia presentations, or started to build and enhance our poems, addressing how literary devices often provide meaning of our poems and help us with peer input, help us perceive our work from different angles. And I would just like to thank each and every one of you for your hard work and tremendous progress in developing your poetic voice. Poetry is a strong vehicle of expression, and the skills you've learned today will help you in many aspects of your life. And to that, I bid you farewell. Thank you.